Good morning, friends. Friends, I am your assistant teacher, Mr. Alin Kumar Swine. Welcomes you back to the Gyan Jyoti online classes. Students, I want to tell you that before the starting of the video that this is the last chapter in your section or in your syllabus. That is the 18th century. This is the chapter in the section history and chapter number is 10. And the name is the 18th century. Students, what does it mean? Century means the 18th century, the period of 100 years. So what all happened? This takes you towards modern Indian history. So let us discuss the introduction that what is the 18th century all about. The general political condition of India in the 18th century was unstable. Yes, because after the princely states rule, after the Mughal emperor's rules, the Britishers came in, the Dutch came in, the French came in for trade purposes, but they majorly came in India for ruling. That was their main aim. So it was not very different from the situation that prevailed at the time of the invasion of the Turks and Timurs. Yes, students, then the process of disintegration of the Mughal Empire. Students, after the disintegration of the Mughal Empire, British rule started. Different Indian rulers were also there, but the Britishers ruled us for more than 200 years. Then, after the disintegration of the Mughal Empire, it had become faster. The disintegration became faster after the death of Aurangzeb. Because after the death of Aurangzeb, the rulers were very weak. They were very weaker. And consequently, chiefs of the existing states, the princely states especially, became independent. The Mughal officials established their own autonomous states in different parts of the country. And individually, many new states came forward. But the rulers were quite good, but collectively they were very weak and ineffective. That was the main problem. Among all the rulers, the Marathas were the strongest, and the foreign invasions shattered Maratha dream of establishing an all-Indian empire. The Marathas were there; they were very strong, but to construct an all-India empire, it was little difficult. Then, among them, the Marathas were very strong, and after that, the foreign invasions shattered the Marathan dream of establishing an all-India empire. These developments enabled the British to emerge as the supreme power, a supremacy in our country. Then, students will study about the imperial center, that how it affected our country's political situation. Imperial center. The kings were not very effective, not very strong. Therefore, the foreign invasions made them little weaker. Wars of successions were fought repeatedly. The Mughal emperors changed quickly. Within the year 1719 itself, 4 rulers occupied the Mughal throne in quick succession. So, the Mughal court at Delhi was split into many fractions. Students, you know that Delhi was the epicenter of all the rulers, of all the political conditions of our country. Therefore, the kings had become puppets in the hands of the nobles. Students, the nobles were very powerful at that time. Wars and counter wars characterized this period. In short, all efforts were made to grab power. The nobles themselves declared themselves as their independent kings, and they dethroned the kings sitting in the throne. Then the chiefs asserted that power. Provincial governors assumed independence. The Marathas dreamt of replacing the Mughals. all of them failed. These developments had weakened the imperial center. Its hold over the regions that declined. Its hold, and in the end, students, especially the British East India Company, took advantage of the situation. That I have told you that Britishers ruled over us for more than 200 years. So, and the Britishers first established the British East India Company, and they took advantage of the situation and established to hold over the entire Indian subcontinent. Students, this was the main impact that the Britishers came to India for trade purposes, but instead of doing trade, they tried to rule over us. So British East India Company was just a puppet. They established it just to do business with us, and afterwards they ruled over us. Then students, what was the impact? Taking the advantage of the weak center, many provincial governors and local chiefs proclaimed independence. India's neighbors were aware of the state of political unrest. Therefore, they invaded India, and however the rulers of the regional kingdoms tried to restore the law and order. Moreover, students, what happened? These rulers pursued secular politics. Students, what happened with the Mughal Empire? Why Britishers emerged as the new rulers or emperors, or you can say the powerful empires in our country, because the Mughal Empire declined after Aurangzeb. So, after Aurangzeb, Bahadur Shah from 1707 to 1712 he ruled. After Aurangzeb, these were the emperors. After Aurangzeb, they ruled. The Mughal emperors after Aurangzeb. Then what happened? Jalandhar Shah. Students, after Aurangzeb, Bahadur Shah became the emperor from 1707 to 1712. Then students, the different emperors came for a short period. First of all was Bahadur Shah, then it was Jalandhar Shah from 1712 to 1713 only, means just for 1 year. After that, some names were Farooq Shiar from 1713 to 1719, then Rafi ud Darzad 1719, Rafi ud Dawla, Muhammad Shah, Ahmad Shah, Alamgir II students, then Shah Alam, Akbar Shah II, and the last one, just remember, the last emperor of the Mughal Empire was Bahadur Shah II, or Bahadur Shah Zafar. He ruled the empire from 1837 to 1857. You know, students, 1857 was the year from where the Sepoy Mutiny, Sipahi Bidroh in Hindi what it is told, that started, and that is known as, students, as the first war of Indian independence. And this started in the year 1857, and Bahadur Shah II was the last emperor of the Mughal Empire. Students, there is a special note about it, that from 1556 to 1707, during the first 150 years, only 4 Mughal emperors ruled. Students, just listen. Before 1707, and from 1566 from 1556 to 1707, that is during the first 150 years, only four Mughal emperors, they ruled. During the next 150 years, 11 Mughal emperors came to power. Just listen. In this, only four emperors ruled, but after that, students, in the gap of 150 years, four Mughal emperors ruled. But after the next 150 years, 11 Mughal emperors came to power. So this was the difference, students. The Mughal emperors were very weak after Aurangzeb. Students, we will move to the next subtopic, that is about the Sikh. Students, there are some subtopics in the chapter, that is the Sikhs, the Jats, the Rajputs, the Marathas, and so and so. So first of all, we study about the Sikh. Students, the Sikhs had come into military conflict with the Aurangzeb. Students, you know that Sikh was a religion which came to be found in the medieval time, and Guru Nanak was the holy guru of the Sikh people, Sikhism. So during the 18th century, they rose as a formidable power in Punjab and they fought against Aurangzeb. The Emperor Aurangzeb had never been able to manage the Sikh. Guru Gobind Singh was not able to withstand the Mughal might for long, but he had created a tradition that the Sikhs will fight against the Mughals. So he had also provided a weapon for the establishment of a Sikh state. In the year 1699, in the year 1699. In the year 1699, under his leadership, the Sikh Khalsa was formed. Sikh Khalsa, in the year 1699, Sikh Khalsa was formed. Then students, after Guru Gobind Singh, after what happened, students? Banda Bahadur kept up the struggle. Students, Banda Bahadur was one of the leaders and even sacrificed his life. Students, Banda Bahadur sacrificed his life for the cause. The invasions of Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali. Students, they were the great cruel rulers. Ahmad Shah Abdali and Nadir Shah weakened the Mughal emperor, and this provided the Sikhs an opportunity to have to fight with the Mughal empire, because they were weakened by the attacks of Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali. It played a very effective role in the creation of independent Sikh state. Therefore, students, you know, Punjab is we can't say that Punjab is a particular Sikh state, but most of the Punjabis stay in Punjab, and that is regarded as a Sikh state. The Sikh movement was a religious one, because students, you know that Guru Nanak is the religious guru of the Sikh people, which believed in equal rights for all, because you know that Guru Nanak, Kabir and on different social reformers, they all preach that God is one and everybody is equal. They always discarded the caste system, they always discarded the sacrifice system and different types of illegal or ill activities inside the society. Under these circumstances, it also turned into a political movement. Ultimately, it led towards regional independence, and thus a separate state, Punjab, was formed, and Sikh people, they were very brave and they tried to fight with the invaders. Okay, students. Then the next subtopic here is we will study about the Jats. Students, Jat people Now also you can see in most of the Haryana, Delhi region, Rajasthan, then the Mughals had to confront the Jats of the Agra Delhi region. Then what did they do? The Jats were mostly peasant cultivators. Students, peasant means farmers, and cultivators, you know that they were farmers who always do cultivations, agriculture and cattle rearing. So these were their professions. Then they had a strong sense of brotherhood and justice. Students, brotherhood means bhaichara in Hindi, what we say, and justice means nyaya. Then what happened, students? Aurangzeb had to face Jat offsprings in the Agra Delhi region. So, due to the cruel nature of Aurangzeb, first of all the Sikhs, they attacked the Aurangzeb, their empire, and now the Jats also came forward. Initially, Mughal forces met with the success with the strong support of the Rajputs, but after Aurangzeb's death, Churaman was able to carve out a separate Jat princely state. So Churaman, how the Sikhs made a separate Punjab Sikh state. So he also made a separate Jat state. The Jats uprising was initially a peasants uprising, but it culminated into a state, which the Jat chiefs formed the ruling class. Okay, students, this was the Jats. This is a small brief description about the Jats. Then, students, we will study about the Rajputs. Students, you know the meaning of Rajput. Rajput means the son of a noble or a king. Okay. They were men princely people. Then after the death of Aurangzeb, Marwar, that is called the Jodhpur, and Amer were the two major kingdoms in Rajputana. Students, first of all Jodhpur, its old name is Marwar, and Amer, that is called Jaipur. This became the two kingdoms in the Rajputana dynasties. So Raja Ajit Singh of Marwar regained control of Marwar. He tried to form an anti-Mughal alliance, as also participated in the imperial politics in Delhi. The Mughals appointed him as the governor of Gujarat and Amer. So what happened? The Mughals have appointed him as the governor of Gujarat and Amer, but he was soon killed by his son Bakht Singh. So, students, what happened in the earlier history? That to become the king, everything can be done, and therefore the son, they were killing their parents, their brothers, just to attain the throne. Then, students, the ruler of Jaipur was the second important Rajput chief, Sawai Jai Singh. Students, he is an important ruler that is called the Sawai Jai Singh, and his rule was from 1699 to 1743. So he did not participate in the Delhi politics. Instead, he built the city and fort of Jaipur. He was a distinguished statesman, famous diplomat and lawmaker, social reformer, and a man of science. He was one of the best kings in the Rajputana. So he built 5 observatories. Students, as he was interested in science and astronomy, he made 5 observatories. So what are observatory, students? There is a place where different arrangements are done to study about the solar system, you can say universe also. So they were made for the arrangements for the study of astronomy, means the study of universe, you can say. Then, students, this was a small topic about the Rajputanas. Next, students, then we will study about Marathas. But in your book there is a case study given, means there is a detailed description of the Marathas, how they emerged as great rulers. Students, the expansion of the Maratha power is the major development of the first half of the 18th century. The great Shivaji Maharaj. Students, he is one of the most prominent rulers, most strongest rulers what our India has ever seen. The Marathas are really very brave. Shivaji had succeeded in founding an independent Maratha state. That is called Maharashtra, we know. The Marathas under him have posed a threat to the Mughal Empire. Shivaji united the sturdy and brave Marathas. As I have told you, students, the Marathas are really very brave, and trained them in guerrilla warfare. Students, guerrilla warfare means technical, it is a different type of war or battle. The Marathas lived in the hilly areas of Maharashtra. Some of them had worked for the sultans of Bijapur and Golconda, and even for the Mughals. Students, the Marathas lived in hilly areas of Maharashtra. Some of them had worked for the sultans of Bijapur and Golconda. The Deccani sultans could not control Shivaji because Shivaji was a brave soldier, brave king. Ultimately, Shivaji came into conflict with the Mughals, and Raja Jai Singh, a Mughal general, Raja Jai Singh, a Mughal general, managed to the surrender of Shivaji. But he brought Shivaji to Agra. However, things did not go well at Agra. Shivaji was arrested, but he managed to escape. That I have told you, friends. He brought him to Agra under the Mughals, but they were unable to keep him inside the bars. So he escaped from that. Shivaji returned and started the anti-Mughal activities. You know, students, Mughals were very cruel. They did like the Indian people. Therefore, anti-Mughal activities or the feelings, expressions, they started to develop, flourish. He plundered the port of Surat, adopting the title of Chhatrapati. He became the king and the founder of an independent Maratha state. Students, he is always known as Chhatrapati Maharaj Shivaji or Shivaji Maharaj, and he became an independent Maratha state. Shivaji's administration. So, how was Shivaji's administration? We will study here. Shivaji's administration. Shivaji, as I told you, is a well-known fighter. He adapted the guerrilla warfare. He was an efficient administrator as well. He was an efficient administrator, efficient king as well. Shivaji had a council of ministers to assist him. The ministers were called Ashtapradhan. Students, the ministers were called Ashtapradhan. Then students, it was known as the 8 ministers, the Peshwa. Students, let's say called Peshwa. The name Peshwa means Prime Minister, and the Senapati, the Chief of Army. Chief of Army, and Pandit Rao, Minister of Religious Matters, were the important ministers under him. Pandit Rao. Peshwa was the Prime Minister, Ashtapradhan was the Minister, Senapati Chief of Army, Pandit Rao was the Chief of Religious Matters. Were the important ministers under him. None of these posts were hereditary. Shivaji did not continue the Jagir system. He paid all salaries in cash. So Shivaji divided his kingdom into prans. Prans means, students, provinces. We know the provinces were divided into parganas. Students, the France means province divided into parganas. And the Patil headed the village administration. Then students, what happened? The Patil headed the village administration. Therefore students, you may have seen the Marathi people, they have their surname as Patil. So in the way the administration was decentralized, you can see that the division was made of the like the Mughal Empire. Then students, what happened? Land revenue was a major source of income. Students, as I have told you, to rule a state or a kingdom, you need a revenue for the well-being of the people, because that money is spent on the welfare of the people. So Shivaji demanded 2/5 of the produce of the land as revenue, and land revenue was collected from the areas which were under the administration of Shivaji. Shivaji also demanded a share in the revenue even in the areas which were not under his control. From such areas he levied chot. It means that 1/4 of the revenue was paid to the Marathas in return for production of their people. Then Sardesh Mukhi was another source of revenue. Students, Sardesh Mukhi was another source of revenue, and it meant that the rulers of neighboring areas were forced to pay 1/10 of their income for production against attacks by other forces. And Shivaji also introduced the 2 claims as a matter of policy. Then students, what happened? What we will talk about the army. The army. What about the army? The army was well organized. Soldiers were recruited without distinction of caste and creed. They were well trained and they were paid in cash. Shivaji maintained artillery, but he was known for his cavalry. He also maintained his navy also. Students, then what happened, students? The forts and the fortresses remained very important for the Marathas. It is said that Shivaji possessed over 250 forts. Students, just listen. 250 forts and fortresses. These fortresses were generally located on the hills and surrounded by forests. These fortresses formed the main backbone of the Maratha strength, and the geography of the areas was another factor that were in favor of Shivaji and his successor, because it was located in such an area that the geography was very in a hilly area. It is situated in a hilly area. It was inaccessible also. Therefore, it was very productive. The fort and fortresses I am talking about. Then, student, Aurangzeb had imprisoned Shahuji, the grandson of Shivaji. What happened, students? In 1689, so he was released by Bahadur Shah, and his release led to the internal problems, strike among the Marathas, because as I have told you that Shivaji didn't like the Mughals and they tried to start a war. An internal strike came into them and they tried to fight a war with the Mughals. Then Shahuji had appointed Balaji Vishwanath to the post of Peshwa. Peshwa, I have told you, Peshwa is known as the Prime Minister of their kingdom. With this, the rule of Peshwas began. Under them, the Maratha Empire reached its zenith. Then, student, Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath expanded the Maratha Empire. In the first place, he got the right to collect chot and Sardesh Mukhi from 6 Mughal provinces in the Deccan. His successor Bajirao I made fresh conquests. He conquered Malwa and Gujarat. Under him, the Marathas reached as far as Delhi. Students, as I have told you that Delhi was the epicenter of the Indian history, and they always tried to stay there for longer period. That was the rule of the Mughals, but Marathas tried to fight with them. Then students, what happened? The third Peshwa, that is Balaji Bajirao, was the virtual ruler of the Marathas. Then he extended control of the Marathas into Rajasthan, and he collected tributes from the Rajput rulers. He extended Maratha control over Odisha also, Bengal and even Punjab. He also defeated the Nizam of Hyderabad. Students, Nizam of Hyderabad, then he took the Maratha flag up to the attack, and to the north and west with these students, the Maratha power reached its zenith, means to the top. Then what happened? But the Peshwa, what was the problem of the Peshwas, the Prime Minister of the Marathas? The Peshwa suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Ahmad Shah Abdali in the third battle of Panipat. Students, the third battle of Panipat was fought between the Marathas and the Ahmad Shah Abdali in 1761. In 1761, third battle of Panipat was fought between the Marathas and Ahmad Shah Abdali, and the battle shattered the dream of the Marathas to establish and hold an all-India empire. So students, this was the story of the Marathas, a case study which has been given in your textbook, and we'll move towards the next topics, the independent Tornado. Students, after that, after we studied about the Marathas, Jats, Sikhs, and thereafter the disintegration of the Mughal Empire led to the establishment of many autonomous states in India, and many prominent among them were the following. We'll study about the three independent states. The first one is the Awadh, second one is the Bengal, and third one is Hyderabad. Because they were very prominent, therefore we'll study about the three. And the subtopic is, students, rise of semi-autonomous bodies. Sorry, students, states. It's not bodies, it's states. So, in Awadh, students, Saddat Khan established a semi-autonomous state. He was a Mughal official. So, Saddat Khan in Awadh. So, Saddat Khan established peace and order in Awadh. The condition of the farmers improved gradually. He made appointments on the basis of individual ability. His successor Sardar Jung did not make any distinction between the Muslims and the Hindus in matters of justice. It was under him that the Awadh and Lakhnavi cultures developed to a great extent. Students, Sardar Jung is a name who was the son of Saddat Khan. You can see in Delhi. If you visit to Delhi, there are some places, some institutions named after Sardar Jung. Sardar Jung's successors, Sajjaduddaulah, fought against the British in the Battle of Buxar and was defeated. Students, Saddat Khan's son was Sardar Jung. Then next is Sajjaduddaulah. So these were the successors, and he fought in the Battle of Buxar and was defeated. Subsequently, the Nawab of Awadh came to lose their freedom gradually. So after defeat from the British Empire, they lose. Students, the next is, after Awadh, the Bengal. Second is Bengal. So what happened, student? Murshid Quli Khan, the Diwan of Bengal, took advantage of the weakening authorities of the center. He shifted his base from Dhaka to Murshidabad. Murshidabad is situated in present-day West Bengal. He acquired the position of a governor a little later. Then, students, what happened? Murshid Ali Khan freed himself from the imperial control. In the region, he restored peace and order. His successor acquired the governorship of Odisha and Bihar also. Students, the successor of Murshid Quli Khan acquired the governorship of Bihar and Odisha. Finally, students, Alwardi Khan occupied the province. His successor Sirajuddaulah. So both are different students. Sirajuddaulah. So that was Sirajuddaulah of Awadh, that is of Bengal. Ruled for 14 months. He lost his life in the Battle of Plassey, and after the Battle of Plassey, Bengal became practically all powerful in the British, especially students. The British became all powerful in Bengal. Students, the third one is the last topic is students Hyderabad. Students, you know Hyderabad is famous for Nizams. They ruled here for very long years. Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah founded the state of Hyderabad. Students, Nizamul Mulk, remember the name? The name is Nizamul Mulk and Asaf Jah. He founded the state of Hyderabad. Nizam ul Mulk Asaf Jah founded state of Hyderabad, and Asaf Kui dynasty in 1724. He founded a dynasty in 1724. He ruled the state as an independent ruler. He established the administration on the same pattern of the Mughals. He followed a policy of religious tolerance. He tried to do away with the corruption in the revenue system. His descendants were called the Nizams. Students, his descendants were known as the Nizams. They are still alive, the students, and they are very rich people. They have a lot of properties, a lot of forts now also. Under his successor, the state lapsed into a period of internal stability. Family feuds were the main cause. The rulers of Hyderabad also lost their independence to British. Students, at the end and gradually after some time, all the rulers, major rulers of our country, it may be Marathas, the kingdoms of Awadh, Bengal, Hyderabad, they all lost their battles to British. Therefore, the British ruled over us, okay, for a long period. Then students, at last, the last subtopic in your book is about Mysore. Students, we know Mysore is situated in Karnataka. The kingdom of Mysore in South India made a mark under Hyder Ali. Students, the ruler name was Hyder Ali, and he had risen from an ordinary power to a top position. Hyder Ali organized a formidable fighting force, and he expanded the territory of Mysore. He clashed with the British also successfully, but just after him, Tipu Sultan. Student, you may have heard the name of Tipu Sultan, and from 1782 to 1999. Students, not students. It is not 99. It is 1799. He was a sworn enemy of the British. He fought with them many times, and Tipu Sultan introduced a new system of coinage, means coin making, and new scales, that is the weight and measurements. He took a keen interest in the improvement of agriculture, trade and commerce. He had established contacts with Tipu Sultan, I am talking about Tipu Sultan, France. He also armed the infantry with rifles. Under him, muskets and bayonets were manufactured in Mysore. He tried to establish a modern navy. Students, just this was the chapter all about, and the chapter 18th century has ended here. Now students, I am glad to say that your course is totally over, and from the next class onwards, from next week onwards, we will do with only the question and answers. So students, for today I am saying goodbye to all of you, and please look the video, watch the video. So stay home, stay safe, have a nice day students. Bye bye.